Hello again, and welcome to the course introduction for Algebra 1A. So what are we going to learn this year? Well, we're going to start with some algebra basics, which we will use to then develop into further algebra concepts such as equations, solving equations, manipulating equations, inequalities, solving inequalities and manipulating those as well. Then we're going to dive into functions and what those are. After functions, we're going to focus specifically on linear functions, which is slope and rate of change and intercepts and things like that. And we'll finish the semester with systems of equations. So that's what we're going to be learning this semester. So algebra, it's a higher order thinking. Up until now, you've done a lot of arithmetic, a lot of skills, a lot of drill and kill type things where you're solving quickly, or you're 5 times 4, doing some stuff with fractions, things like that. In algebra, we're going to be looking at hopefully developing patterns and making predictions and basically going above that a little bit. Because of that, you're going to need to watch for those patterns, develop that thinking. And to kind of get you thinking that way, I'm going to do a little example here. So I'm going to start with a 1. Predict what's going to happen next. Now, you could probably have a bunch of predictions here. More than likely, you're not going to be right because you have no idea what the pattern is at this point. So I'm going to show you the next line. 1, 1. You may not have expected that. But now, what are you going to do? See if you can gather something else from that. Let's look again. The next line is 1, 2, 1. Maybe you still don't see anything. Maybe you do. If you see something, pause the video and try to write the next line. All right. Some of you might have noticed that the first line had 1 number, the second line had 2, the third line had 3. You may notice that the pattern is the next line is going to have 4, but what are those numbers going to be? You might be able to see it. Again, you might not. That's kind of how algebra works. You're going to do one problem. You're going to think, oh, I get it. Well, it might be right, or it might be wrong, or I might be wanting to show you something else with it. So you're going to have to move on to the next problem and see if that pattern continues. And the next problem. That's why we give you some certain number of problems in your homework. So if you tried it, the next line is going to be 1, 3, 3, 1. Again, pause the video. See if you can study those numbers real quick. Try to come up with the next line. If you got that right, good. If not, continue to look at it. What am I doing wrong? What pattern is trying to be developed here? Okay, and I'm going to point out that this pattern, if you look at it, 1, it always starts with 1. You notice that it always starts with 1 and ends with 1. The next number, 4, comes from the sum of 1 and 3. Gives you 4. The 6 comes from the sum of 3 and 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. And then it ends with a 1. So pause the video and try to write the next line. Hopefully you paused it and you tried it and you got 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1. This is just the beginning of Pascal's triangle. We're not going to do much with this, but it was just an example to show you how patterns can be found in numbers. Okay. Now we're going to be dealing with a lot of algebraic equations. And here's a bunch of examples of different algebraic equations. Right now, you can probably do the first one, but the last 3 you do not know how to do yet. We will get to those. But the point is, we're going to be manipulating equations to solve and get that x, or a variable, by itself. The next slide shows an equation that has been completely worked out. By the end of second semester, you should be able to do this problem. This is a very basic problem from second semester, the end of it. Right now, you won't know how to do it. It's going to look very scary, maybe, but you will be able to do this. The point I'm trying to show here is the work needed. So the beginning equation, I could type that into a solving app and get these answers here at the bottom very easily. And I'm going to reiterate this as we go. The answer is not the most important thing. What I'm looking for is your work. So all of those steps are needed in order to get full credit for a problem like this. And I'm going to try and teach you that as we go. But let's finish this video with the structure of this course. So you're going to get a lesson. You're going to get multiple lessons. For each lesson, it's going to start with a video lecture, kind of like you're doing right now. You're watching me. You should take notes in your notebook. There's an example of what that looks like here. So it's labeled at the top with a 5.1 rate of change. It's the title of the lesson. And then you have handwritten notes. The importance of these is that, one, we don't have a textbook. As we get to the end of the course, at the end of the semester, you're going to take a final exam. You don't have a notebook, or you don't have a textbook to look back to. If you don't have a notebook, yeah, it's going to be tough. So you're going to want to keep your notes. For that reason, I am going to grade you on your notes. Not right away. I'm going to have you take them and submit them, and I'll give you some feedback. So the first one or maybe two, I haven't decided yet. I won't necessarily give you a grade, but I will give you feedback. After that, I'll start taking grades on your notes for each week. After a lesson, though, moving on, you'll take a SWIC. A SWIC stands for show what you know. So you're going to show what you've learned from the video. It's typically a very short 2-3 question quiz on Canvas. Okay. You have to get 100% on that before you can move on. Once you do, you'll move on to an assignment where you will practice what you just learned. These are typically in Math Excel, which you'll see a video of later. And you're going to want to show all your work on that. Again, same reason as I explained in the last slide. We want to see your thought process. If your work doesn't match your answer, we have some questions as instructors. There are lots of ways to get answers without actually doing the work. We do not want you doing that. Okay, we want you working it out and sharing your work, and that's going to be part of your grade. If there's no work attached, you won't get any credit. Okay, so that's one lesson. Then at the end of the week, there's going to be an assessment. The assessment's going to cover the 2 or 3 lessons that you learned that week. It's done in Math Excel. And the reason we do it in Math Excel is, one, consistency. You're doing all your assignments in Math Excel. We're going to do the assessment in Math Excel. Math Excel also changes numbers. So if you're cheating, it's going to be hard to do. It's going to be a little harder to do that when the numbers change. So we do it in Math Excel. You will have multiple attempts for each assessment. You'll have 3 attempts. The reason for that is we want you to learn from your mistakes. If you take it the first time and get a 60%, you can look at the ones you missed, try to figure out what you did wrong, and learn from it and try it again. Like with the assignments, you're going to submit your work as a PDF or as a video file after you're done. Okay, and that's just the basics of how this course is going to be run. Yeah, if you have any questions about that, please send me a Canvas message or an email, and I will try to clear things up for you. So it's the end of this video. We'll move on to week 1 very soon.